Now let's get serious and talk about really important things, which is important to our Rotary District and the Rotary world. So I welcome our incoming Foundation Chair, Ms. Brenda Walker. The floor
Thank you,
is yours.
Amy. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to District 5910 Foundation Basics Training. I'm Brenda Walker, your incoming Foundation Chair. And as all of you know, the Rotary Foundation transforms your gifts into projects that change lives both close to home and around the world. We tap into a global network of Rotarians who invest their time, money, and expertise into priorities such as eradicating polio and promoting peace. Arch Klump was our RI president in 1917, and he originally had the idea of accepting endowments for the purpose of doing good in the world. At the end of his term, the Rotary Club of Kansas City, Missouri honored him with a gift of $26.50 to start the Rotary Endowment Fund, which later became the Rotary Foundation following the death of our founder, Paul Harris, in 1947. Over the years, the foundation has improved the lives of millions around the world. Our district foundation team is dedicated to helping you with any questions you may have, and we want to make sure that you have the tools you need for a successful year. You can access foundation information online at rotary.org or on our district website, rotary5910.org, or you can email any of us on the foundation team at the district, and we'll be happy to assist you. And I'll be emailing you that contact information soon. I will also be following your club's giving throughout the year and celebrating your successes as we move forward. I emailed the club fundraising analysis, which will assist you in setting your goals for the year. And I was so encouraged that even this past year during the pandemic, Rotarians stepped up and supported the Rotary Foundation very generously. Our primary source of funding for projects is the annual Fund Share program, and our Assistant Rotary Regional Foundation Coordinator, Sharon Miles, has joined us this evening to explain the fund. Sharon?
Okay, I'm going to say thank you, Brenda, very much. And that was a nice introduction about the foundation. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And we're going to start this slideshow if I can find how to do this. Here we go. Okay. Again, thank you for inviting me and allowing me to have a few minutes to talk to you this evening about the Annual Programs Fund. You know, Rotary has been working over 115 years doing exactly what Brenda talked about, raising funds and meeting needs of people and around the world and also just in our communities. The mission of the Rotary Foundation is to enable, I'm going to move this out of my way, Rotarians to advance world understanding, goodwill, and peace, and through the improvement of health, support of education, and the alleviation of poverty. And Doris Lakey, would you tell me what the motto is for the Rotary Foundation? Doris?
Doris, you may need to unmute.
Service above self.
That's one of them on the screen.
Right.
What does it say?
Oh,
Somebody
enable
want to help her out?
Rotarians to advance world understanding, goodwill, and peace through improvement of health and support of education and alleviation of poverty.
Yes, and what is our motto?
Good in the world.
Doing good in the world. Absolutely, that's what we're doing, is good in the world. Thank you for that. I want you to know about our little bit about our foundation. It has received the 4-star charity level rating from Charity Navigator, which is the largest independent evaluator of charities. And this is the 14th year in a row where we have acquired this. So it's really important when we're talking about the foundation with people that they understand it is reputable. It has a high rating for accountability and transparency. And we're very proud of that. And it's something that people seek to have. So we're very glad we have that. And you need to have that knowledge about it in case someone asks you. I think pictures say more than some words do. And so these are some pictures of understanding the needs in our community and in the world. And looking at the pictures, you can identify some of the needs that are out there. And sometimes when you have an opportunity to make a difference and work with one of these populations or even people in your community, you realize how powerful Rotary is, not just as individuals, but we come together to make a difference. So in the chat room, would you put a few comments about when was the first time, or is there a project that you worked on that really touched you? and impacted you. I'll give you a few minutes to put some chats in there. And Ava, if you can read a few of them, that would be helpful for me.
I would be happy to do that, Sharon.
Thank you.
Water wells, can't believe, camp believe, C-A-M-P believe.
Okay.
Shelter box, Camp Hope. Polio, I like me books. I like me books. Thank you, Doris. Layette bags for mothers, Rebecca, thank you. Hunger Plus, Chuck, thank you. Worked on a wheelchair for Mawalyi. The first set was, yeah, I didn't say that good at all.
Okay.
Shoes for children, lights for teachers in Africa. Back to wheelchairs in Malawi. The first set was stolen in country, so we had to do it twice. And set with that Sicily, thank you. Lights for Rotarians. Shoes for children whose homes were flooded after hurricane and they lost everything. Not first time, but Harvey. And the donations in Sierra Leone. Books for the World, Doris Lockie participated in that. That is very cool.
Those are some great ones. Thank you for sharing those.
Peacekeeping in Sierra Leone.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing those.
Fantastic.
Appreciate that so much. Great. That's great. One thing that Brenda talked about also was that we're an organization that have partners, and you have partners in the clubs in your district. You have partners throughout our region, and you also have partners throughout the world, because we are doing grants and projects in other worlds with other Rotary clubs. And so we're always constantly working with partners, and that's very important as we're working in Rotary. You know, our foundation works primarily because we have two things that have to happen. First, we have to have program participation. I think this is Galveston putting together some backpacks, and this is, where's it at? They were doing something at the hospital. Can't think of it. Anyway, this is another club in your district doing something at the hospital, and they did programs and involved their members. And once we had the members involved, then guess what happened? Then they would start giving, because it did matter to them what they cared. They knew that they couldn't do the projects if they didn't have the funds to make that happen. So it's a kind of a cycle where we can, sometimes you give the money first, something you see happens and it touches you and you want to provide funds for that. And then you get involved in it. And some people get involved and then decide they want to join Rotary, and then they become contributors also. So we do make a difference, but it takes both things to happen to make that work. There are 4 program funds. I'm focusing just on the annual program fund tonight, but I wanted to talk a minute about the other ones. The endowment, the permanent fund is also one. The Polio Plus fund, I'm sure Chuck's going to talk about that, and the disaster relief fund. So those are the 4 basic funds that we have in Rotary. A little bit about how they work. Rotarians make contributions to any of these or all of these, however they want to. Polio Plus funds go directly to the program fund, to the Rotary Foundation program fund. And the disaster relief monies go directly to the program fund. The endowment is money that is saved, and then the interest earned off of that is moved out and then moved to the World Fund and then to the program fund. The annual program fund can go directly to TRF, but we want to encourage you to remember to use the word share when you put annual program fund and make your donation, because if you don't put share, it goes directly into there. But the annual program fund, if you put share, that is money that you've given that will come back to your district to support your district designated grants. It's your choice of what those grants are. And then also the interest investment earnings go to the World Fund, but part of the share also goes to the World Fund. And this money is used for programs for global grants. So that's kind of how it flows. 90% of all the funds contributed out of the program fund are spent on foundation programs on a 3-year funding cycle. So the money that you're going to get this year in 2021 was actually donated in 18-19, and it draws interest, and then it comes back to the district. Part of it comes back to the district, and we'll talk about that ratio in just a second. PRF Share is a system which used to participate in Rotary Foundation programs. 50% of the fund goes to the district designated fund, which can be spent on programs of the district's choice, and 50% of it goes to the Rotary Foundation World Fund, which has programs for every district may apply for. And a graphic, I think, helps a little bit more. If you gave $1,000 in 2018-19, then this year, half of that money will come back to your district, $500, and the other $500 will go to the World Fund, and that is earmarked for specific projects. Of this $500, it is split again at the district level. Normally, most districts split at 50-50. I think Brenda told me y'all split 50-50. So $250 of your $1,000 would go for district grants. And then the other half would go to Rotary, to the World Fund for global grants. It also would go for polio donations, Rotary Peace Centers, and disaster relief. So this money over here that you have for district, this $250 is the money that comes back to your district. And every district decides how that money is split. Sometimes they give clubs back the money they donated for projects. Some of them have a tier system where they spread it out over other clubs too. But that is your district's decision on how you choose to do that. This is what Brenda sent to you today or yesterday, this district fundraising analysis, and this is the one for your district, kind of showing how your annual fund program is going. And here's a chart that also shows you graphically how it's going. And you're on this level, so you're above your goal and you're above where you were last year at this time. When you look up here, we'll come back to this chart in just a second, but this shows what you've done for the last 5 years in annual program fund. And I will tell you, all districts in our zone are a little low in annual program fund as they are worldwide. So they're encouraging us to consider contributing more to that fund. You should be very proud of yourselves because the goal is for the districts to give $100 per capita. And your district last year gave $131.65 per capita, which is really very, very good. So congratulations to you for attaining that. This is just a chart, a little bit larger graphic of where we are right now. You can see what you did in 16, 17, and each year it kind of grows. And sometimes you have a hiccup, but you've done a wonderful job the last couple of years. Remember, this number at the top is only at the end of April. You've got 2 more months, and that's usually when most of the money comes in. That's not unusual. So you're about where you were last year, or maybe a little bit over that. So I think you're going to do well this year again. And during the pandemic, that's something to say because a lot of districts are struggling. On this chart, this is the every Rotarian every year chart. Every Rotarian, they're encouraging us to really work on every Rotarian every year because overall we're losing members, and also only about 30% of the Rotarians actually give anything to the foundation. So it's really important to impress upon them that if they're Rotarians, they're one of their things they should be given, their charity of choice should be the foundation. I know they have churches, I know they go to college, I know they have other things that they do, but really encourage your members to do their $25. That's what, if you get $25 a year, you become an every Rotarian, you're designated as an EREY person. And again, if you'll look at the EREY numbers down here, you had 1,055 in 16, 17, and 462 right now going on. And this is not untypical. In fact, it's very typical. And that is one thing that Rotary is very concerned about, is how we're doing on getting our members to give. You will get a banner for your club if your per capita is $100 per member and every member gives something. So there's 2 criteria. They have to give something, and then the per capita average has to be $100 per member. So some of your members may be Polyhero Society members that are giving $1,000 a year, and so they can pick up some of the slack for those that maybe can't or don't want to give. But you can hit that goal if you just encourage your members to give, and that's really important. Something I would tell you to look at on your chart, on the district chart, you look at their 11 clubs that are not giving anything to annual programs. And then look at polio also. You look at your numbers of who are giving, who are not, and that will help you think about, okay, I need to go visit those clubs, or I need to go talk to my members about helping our club think about starting to get to the foundation. And that's a really tough thing to do if they have the club culture is not necessarily, they've not really had a history of giving. And so turning that around is really difficult, but it can be done. And I'm not going to harass or harangue anybody. I just want to make them aware and give them the tools, give you the tools to help you as club leaders to encourage people to give. And this is that EREY again, just a little bit bigger so you can see it and pay attention to it. The Rotary Foundation is supporting a great way to give a little back to Rotary for the positive impact it has had on your personal and professional life. Most of you have done projects. I think all of you have done projects. It sounds like several different kinds of projects locally as well as nationally. And your support of the foundation is used to save lives, promote peace, and make our local and international communities a better place. The question is, what is your Rotary story? When you people ask you why you gave, what happened that had a positive impact, that Rotary positively impacted your personal and professional life, that made you decide to start giving? And what is some of that? So can you type a few things in there? And Ava, would you mind reading a few of them? What particular thing happened when you worked with the foundation that had a positive impact on your personal and professional life that made you want to give to the foundation? So if we have a few of those.
I'll be looking.
Okay.
Start typing. Ambassadorial scholarship that made my master's degree possible in Scotland, from Rebecca.
Wow.
Fantastic.
Impressive.
Very impressive. Totally changed my life, says Rebecca. Attended a Rotary International Convention my first year. I was impressed with what was being done by Rotarians. Doris, thank you very much.
That's a good one. Who was that?
That was Doris. Jerry says group study exchange.
Oh, awesome. Good.
I had a group of kids from school that were considered low SES and donate $1,000 in coins to support our shelter box. If a kid can do it, so can I. Ernestine says group study also.
Awesome.
I'll put in that I've been to 2 international conferences and it was unbelievably exciting. Unbelievably. Hosted 2 exchange students, Cicely Kelly, thank you. Chuck, visiting water well projects in Nicaragua.
Yes.
From Chuck.
One of
Foundation from Teresa Simpson. Foundation funds allowed me to take LU Rotaract students abroad to Belize to offer campuses. Believe.
Oh, wow.
10 students to St. Viator High School for 4 years in, these are challenging, Chinooks Village. Several districts clubs gave a total of $10,000, $1,000 per Belize students. Elizabeth, I attended a foundation training my first year taught by Susie Howe. She showed me how to include Rotary in my estate planning. And Teresa, thank you very much. And I'm so sorry I made a mistake of all those great towns. Yes.
You're doing great, Ava. Thank you so much. I hope you're sharing these stories with your club members. I hope you're encouraging clubs to let people talk about how Rotary touched them and the work of Rotary touched them. Okay. I'm going to start talking about our goals for this session. We're to leave with the club president possessing tools for developing club member support for the Rotary Foundation. And then our second goal is to give club presidents possess tools to encourage club members to increase annual fund contributions by 3% and increase giving to EREY. And I just have a few tips I'm going to go through with you, some things that will help you in your club. Hopefully you will appoint a foundation chair.
These are great.
a committee that will help them. Review your club's giving history. Brenda sent you that information that will help you quite a bit. And remember that it starts at the club level. It starts with you. And so be sure and take time to think about your foundation goals. I want you to look at your data and then look at your annual giving, your polio giving, and your permanent fund giving. And then remember to set your goals. This is now part of the presidential citation. So please, I encourage you to do that, but also it's a good way to track what you're doing. And then also put them in Rotary Central. It's real important to do that. And you also need to know that you can put your goals in, and if you have met them by November, then you might want to go back and visit. They can always be changed. They can move up or down during the year. But you want to set a realistic goal, not something that's just crazy that you probably can't meet. Be realistic, but get your club to stretch, even if it's a little bit, get them to stretch a little bit more than they did last year, and then talk to them about it. Also, communicate your goals to your members. Sometimes the foundation chair knows the goals and the president may know the goals, but your members may not even know y'all are working on that. So talk to them about what the goals are for the foundation. Remember to ask people to participate in the foundation. Sometimes it just takes an ask. And you may ask the whole club as a body, but it's more effective if you have a one-on-one and just talk to them personally. It seems to work a little bit better. It does for me. Be sure to incorporate every Rotarian every year message in all of your Rotary contacts. So whether it's on Facebook or whether it's on Twitter or whether it's in your newsletter, however you communicate with your club, it's on the bottom of your program each week. Just encourage, keep it in front of them all the time. And more important, I think one of the most important things we forget to do that we need to remember to do is recognize your members for their giving. And if it's $25 or $25,000, it doesn't matter what the amount is. What matters is they are giving, probably sacrificially, some of them, and they are committed to the organization and they're committed to the foundation. So please recognize your members and be sure that let people do that publicly if they will let you. Some people prefer not to, and that's fine. But if they let you do it publicly, it's a good role model and a good example for people to see people they know on the stage getting their awards, getting their pins, or at a club meeting getting their pins, and having that acknowledged publicly. And you never know when you inspire someone. So I think that's important. You might consider having a foundation moment at your meetings, just like we used to do the membership moments. Well, they're encouraging us to do foundation moment. You might start the meeting with a foundation video as you start the meeting. And then again, I'm hoping you share your stories, the ones that you talked about tonight, for a few minutes. Think about sharing those at your club meetings and ask for opportunities to do that so people can live through you and learn from you what Rotary means to you and why it does. This is really important in your story to tell how the contributions make a difference. Some of you talked about your school raising money and helping kids, and how if the kids could do it, we can do it. That's a wonderful story. International stories about things that you have seen and done in other countries, and not just local. So it's kind of a mix. But any videos that you have, I've seen wonderful videos that move people, and I think it's important. Try to get 10 members to enroll into Rotary Direct, and that's where you automatically put your money in. I have it drawn out. I started that years ago, and I never think about it. I will tell you that if you go in there and you decide, well, I don't want to give $500 a month, I want to give $200 for a while, or I want to give even more, or however you set it up, you can alter that at any time, and you can stop it at any time. But that's a good way just to go ahead and get you in the habit of just giving every time. You can add a benefactor. You can add Paul Harris Society members. And those, Ernestine's going to talk about these different levels and what they are in a few minutes. And then remember, more importantly than anything, is that you lead by example. And if you can share your stories about what you've done, if you can talk about why you give and why that's important to you. We don't have the Rotary Police coming looking at how much everybody's giving. We don't do that. But we do want you to let people know that you support the foundation and why you support it. these are just some of the some pictures, some more pictures of different projects throughout the world, and that's what we're doing. That's what this foundation is all about. And our annual program fund and the money coming back for our grants is critical in us making a difference, because people, that's a hands-on opportunity they have to touch people's lives that they might not have any other way. I want to thank you for letting me come. I hope I've given you enough information, not too fast, but I want to thank you for letting me come and enjoy talking with you this evening, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Sharon, not only for your friendship, but for sharing your expertise with us this evening on the annual fund. You know, we always want to recognize our donors to the Rotary Foundation, and our Paul Harris Society Chair, Ernestine Belt, is here to tell you about the different levels of giving. Ernestine? You need to unmute.
Yes, got it.
There you go.
Okay. Now, I don't know how to click them, but I think I can. I don't know. Okay. The Rotary Foundation offers numerous opportunities to individuals who support our grants and programs to see recognition and appreciation. Rotarians can use My Rotary or Rotary Club Central to view individual and club level givings to identify their progress. I'm going to talk about individual recognition first, and then I hope I have time to do a real quick thing with some club recognition. These are the different ways that you can receive some kind of recognition through Rotary Foundation. We'll talk first with a sustaining member. Okay. A sustaining member is someone who personally contributes at least $100 or more each year to the annual fund. These recognitions count towards several of the different levels of recognition that we will review. There are badge stickers available if your clubs want to order them from on the Rotary site to recognize the donors in your clubs to wear on their name badges. That's up to the clubs. The recognition is given to anyone who, this is the Paul Harris Fellow, I'm sorry. This recognition is given to those whose name is contributed or they give themselves, using the recognition points, a gift of $1,000 or more cumulative to the annual fund, the Polio Fund, or an approved global grant. This is, whenever you meet that $1,000 is when you reach that Paul Harris Fellow. It can be 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. There's no limit to it. The multiple Paul Harris recognition is given at the subsequent $1,000 level. So if you continue to give whatever your amount is, then you reach the next $1,000 level, whenever that is. There are 8 levels in this particular recognition. The first level is your first Paul Harris pen, and then after that, for each $1,000 for the first 5,000, you get a sapphire stone in a new pen. You don't have to use, they give you a new pen every time. Then after that, you are given rubies. You don't have the blue ones anymore. You wear the one with the rubies in it, and you can have up to 3 rubies in those pens, getting them one at a time. This range can consist of a combination of cash contributions or foundation recognition points. So if you and a partner want to work together, because when you make a donation, you get one recognition point. So you're working for 2, and you can give those recognition points to other members in your club. If you want to recognize someone outstanding in your community or someone outstanding in your family that you want to also recognize, Rotary is okay with that. These levels start at $2,000 for the level 1 and then go up to a $9,000 combination of for the level 8s. Okay, Paul Harris Society recognizes those individuals who notify, that's the neat word, notify the foundation and sign up for their intention to contribute $1,000 or more each year to the annual fund, the Polio Plus fund, or an approved global grant. Those 2 words are the most important, notify and sign up. A lot of people give that $1,000 and they never indicate to Rotary Foundation that they want to join the Paul Harris Society or that they intend to sign up and want to be. So you must do that. And there's pamphlets out there and you can go on the website to do it. Recognition consists of a chevron to attach to your Paul Harris pin and a certificate. Then major donor. Major donor recognizes individuals or couples who personal combined giving, and this does not include recognition points, has reached the $10,000 level regardless of the gift designation. It doesn't have to be to this, that, or the other. Donors can elect to receive a symbol, a crystal, recognition piece and a pin commemorating the gift at each of the 4 different levels there. All right, and those levels go up 10, whatever, and you'll see next on the next one. All right, the Arch Clump Society are those who contribute $250,000 or more. They become members of the Arch Clump Society, and there are many different special pins, pendants, certificates, and invitations to the Society's exclusive events available to those who give at those 6 levels. These levels range from the first $250,000 to $10 million and above. So at each one of those, they jump by about $500,000, I think, and sometimes more. Okay, a benefactor is someone who informs the Rotary Foundation in writing that they have made a provision in their estate plan for the foundation or who makes an outright gift of $1,000 or more to the endowment. But you have to inform them and then give it to them in writing. Doesn't do any good for you to think it in your head. I want my will to be that way and then never tell anybody. And that has happened, believe it or not. Benefactors will receive a certificate and insignia to be worn with a Rotary or Paul Harris Fellow pin. So you can do benefactor without ever being a Paul Harris. The Bequest Society is the group that recognizes couples or individuals who've made commitments in their estate plan totaling of $10,000 or more. They can receive an engraved crystal recognition piece and a pin commemorating the commitment at each of the 10 different levels. And this is again, $10,000 to level 1 to $10 million at level 10. The Rotary Foundation offers several opportunities for clubs to be recognized. She's already mentioned a couple of them. That's 100% foundation giving, the Paul Harris Fellow Club, every Rotarian every year, the top 3 per capita in annual fund giving, and 100% Paul Harris Society Club people. That's it.
Thank you, Ernestine.
I hope I made it in time.
Yeah, great. Good job. And as you can see, there are just multiple levels of giving to the foundation, and it's so nice to be recognized for the things that you do to help others throughout the world. So next up, we're going to do an overview of global grants by our past District Governor, Chuck Mason. Chuck?
Unmute. Hello, everybody. You've heard how you can be recognized for giving money for the global grants and other things. But the important thing about the foundation is not the recognition you get, but the good that can be done with it. One of the programs that is so significant to our foundation is the Global Grants Program. Rebecca will talk about the Global Grant Scholars in a little while, and it's a special part of this, but it's actually a global grant as well. For a long time, I think it was back in 2013, they revamped the way global grants were done from the foundation. And quite frankly, we never learned how to do it for a long time. About 3 years ago, we started really concentrating on it and trying to encourage our clubs to participate in these grants, because it was just a process of learning how to do it. And then it offered us so many opportunities to do projects in the world, to do things that really made us feel good about ourselves. in the last couple of years, we've had several that clubs in our districts have actually been the sponsors on, that they developed it. And then we've had others where we've gone in with other districts and other clubs and kind of followed their lead. Sometimes as much as anything, because they had the contacts in another country where they knew there was a need, they knew there were people in that country that would be able to execute those programs and very sustainably and efficiently and all. Because that's one of the things that we're so proud of about the Rotary Foundation. We're not one of these big fundraising organizations that most of the money goes into fundraising. A very small percentage of ours is. And that leaves all this money that can be used in these programs. And so I'd like to talk to you about a few of them that we've done the last couple of years. For a couple of years, we weren't ready to do any quite on our own. So mainly we latched on to some programs in 5890. And a couple of them were with different clubs in 5890 that all of us have friends with. I know Anita Smallwood is one that a lot of us know because of Andy Smallwood. Her club developed one in Cucuto, Colombia. You've probably never heard of Cucuto. I had never heard of it until we got involved in some of those. It's right on the border with Venezuela. And if you follow the news, Venezuela has had just horrible economic problems for a number of years. They're, just to be blunt about it, their government is so screwed up that it's messed up everything in the country. And so they have just a tremendous amount of refugees coming across the border into Colombia needing help. And so Cucuto is one of these places that they come into. And fortunately, they've had a really good district governor a couple of years ago that really decided their clubs wanted to make a difference here. So they've sponsored a couple of different programs that have mainly been geared toward how do we deal with these refugees that are being forced out of Venezuela, really, and how can we help them the most? Some of them have been education programs. Some of them had been improvements to hospitals along there. I know one of them that we helped out on. They basically had one maternity ward in the whole area, and yet they had enough people coming over as refugees where they were dealing with 100 births in a day, something like that, and had no way to deal with it. And so these has presented a real opportunity for us to first be of help, but also watch how other clubs and other Rotarians in our area have done these programs so we can learn a little bit more about them. And by doing that, 5 minutes. Okay, I didn't wait. I've got 5 left. Okay. Wow. Okay. So we've done a couple of others that you may have heard of. The Aggie Land Club did one in Argentina that was called Smiles for Kids. That was really oral surgery. They provided funds to set up some operating rooms down there. We had, well, the biggest one we've done so far is mediation in Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone has been involved in civil wars for longer than well, I think all of us are pretty old on this Zoom, but longer than Rebecca has been alive. And they needed some way to address this. And so the Magnolia Club worked with Mediators Beyond Borders to come up with how to train local people there to be mediators, to work with the people and develop programs to train their people on how to be peacekeepers within their own communities. After getting that started and training people, turn your sound on.
I'm sorry.
Training people, yeah, both things.
Okay, I'll get off.
Okay, try it again. Training people to be mediators and work with them. They had a little bit of money left over, and this was after COVID had started having a big effect, and so some of those trained mediators came to Real Provencher and said, you know, if we've got money left over, could we use that to try to train people about COVID, to spread the word in our community so we won't have as big a problem? They had about $3,500 left. They managed to get national TV ads. They managed to have about a 10-minute program on national TV about this. They went around with their megaphones addressing crowds and all. And you imagine what it would have taken us in the US to have a program like that. I mean, it would have been a $100,000 program probably. And yet, because of the efficiencies, because of working with Rotary here and in Sierra Leone, they were able to do it and really make a huge effect on preventing COVID in Sierra Leone. This is an opportunity for all of our clubs to get involved in. There's a lot of details on it. There's a lot of information on the website, but also we've got resources. I'll be happy to work with them. Real would be happy to work with them. Other people that have done these programs. And so I assume my time is out by now. Just call me if you're interested. Thank you.
Thanks, Chuck. And, you know, in addition to these global grants, we do district grants within our own communities. Many of you attended that training in January. And so Bobby Chapman is going to give us just a quick refresher about that training. Bobby?
Thank you, Brenda. We're going to talk briefly about district grants and the requirements and the timelines. And then I'd like to share with you some of this year's grant projects. Next. District grant projects must be completed in the current Rotary year, and they should fall within one of the 7 areas of focus. One suggestion, if your club is trying to decide on a project, be thinking of a need in your community. That's usually a great way to get started. And while most projects are taking place in your communities, don't forget that you can partner with a Rotary club in another country. Next. On the RI website, there's a grants, terms and conditions document that you can download. I can send it to you also. You'll need to read that document and agree to follow the requirements. Your project needs to have Rotarian involvement. We're not just check writers. Have your members doing something, building something hands-on. The district will match up to 50% of the total project cost, and therefore your club will be contributing the rest. Next. At least one member of your club must attend the grants training seminar at PETS, which Brenda just mentioned was held in January. And your club must sign the MOU form. Essentially, you're agreeing to follow Rotary's grant requirements. The training in the MOU must be done each year. They don't carry over from one year to the next. And it goes without saying, you need to be current with your dues. Next. You know the 6 areas of focus. The 7th area, supporting the environment, was added last year. Your grant project should fall within one of these areas. Next. This is the MOU form. We need to have your form on file at the district before your application can be considered. Next. Make sure you get receipts and invoices to back up your expenditures. Even after you submit your final report, you're required to keep your documentation for 5 years. Also, if you need to change your project, you need to submit a request to make that change. This is a Rotary Foundation requirement. We just need to get their approval before you begin. Next. The deadline to apply is August 1st. This will give your new board a few weeks to plan your project and then apply. We hope to get approval by September and get your funds to you in the September-October timeframe. And you'll have until June 1st to get your final report in. Okay, now I would like to show you a few great projects from this year because pictures say everything. The Aggieland Rotary Club bought snacks and drinks and ordered meals from local vendors. The club members delivered the meals, including homemade desserts, to local hospital workers. Next slide. The meals were provided to the vaccination hub, as well as the nurses and staff at the ICUs, critical care units, and COVID wards at St. Joseph's Hospital and Baylor Scott and White Hospital. About 450 people were served. Next. The Beaumont Rotary Club assembled 150 layette bags for women in Chinandega, Nicaragua, with items such as baby shampoo, blankets, towels, baby shirts, and diaper cream. 20 Rotarians, 1 Rotaract member, and 2 guests participated. Next. The beneficiaries are the women who visit the Rotary Clinic there. The mother and child receive medical attention during and following childbirth, meeting the needs of maternal and child hygiene, sanitation, and healthcare. Next. The East Montgomery County Rotary Club partnered with a sheltered workshop for adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities to expand their horticulture program. Herb gardens were created to produce plants used to make blends of tea sold to the public, generating funds to provide programming for the patrons. And next, the project gave the patrons a sense of pride in their work. The workshop opens opportunities for these individuals in keeping this with this year's theme, Rotary Opens Opportunities. Next. According to the TEA, 78% of Lufkin ISD students in 2017 were economically disadvantaged. The Lufkin Rotary Club bought school uniforms and shoes and socks for school children in K through 12. Lufkin Rotarians helped stuff 3,000 backpacks filled with school supplies. Next. In addition to the backpacks, children received a free health kit, a haircut, plus the school uniforms and shoes. On the day of the event, Rotarians volunteered their time to help distribute the items. Next. The Palestine Rotary Club partnered with Anderson County to improve Davie Dogwood Park with 7 aluminum picnic tables, 2 barbecue grills, and disc golf baskets for the kids. Rotarians assembled and installed the tables under the pavilion, securing them to the concrete floor. Next. The grills were installed by digging a hole and cementing the poles in the ground. One of the grills and 2 of the tables are ADA compliant. Thousands of people visiting the park will benefit from this project. Next. Following Hurricane Laura, citizens in Lake Charles were in desperate need of basic items when utilities were out and so many homes were destroyed. The Port Neches Groves Rotary Club bought supplies and put together bags filled with necessities for the hurricane victims. Care bags were assembled with items like mosquito spray, first aid items, snacks, cleaning supplies, and hygiene products. The bags were delivered to a Lake Charles distribution center. Next. It is estimated that almost 5,000 children under the age of 14 in Southeast Texas do not have adequate safe sleeping arrangements and are sleeping in unsatisfactory conditions. Spindletop Rotarians volunteered their time, energy, and talent to help build children's beds from pine lumber, partnering with the nonprofit organization Sleep in Heavenly Peace. Next. The finished beds will be assembled and then delivered to local children in need. Next. The Texas City Rotary Club donated an outdoor bench and 2 large trash receptacles to the Resource Crisis Center for the women and children that currently live there. These women and children are often recovering from violent relationships or may have been victims of sex trafficking. The equipment was installed in an outdoor area that is fenced so the women and children can be outside safely. Plaques reading "Donated by the Rotary Club of Texas City" are installed on the equipment. Next. The Dickinson Rotary Club joined with the Dickinson ISD Gator Wellness Center to create student wellness kits. I have a short video to show you that showcases their project.
The funds were used to purchase materials to run small groups and individual groups for school counselors and other staff members. This is an example of one of the kits. Inside the kit, it will have a binder that will have lessons and activities and materials to help the staff guide the students. Inside will be filled with materials to run groups. Example would be crafts, books, and other materials such as stress balls or whatever the student may need individually. These kits will benefit students that are in crisis, emotional distress, or just need extra support. For example, maybe they have a family member that's been deployed. We have a kit for military deployment. Maybe it's a student that had a death or is grieving a loss. There will be a kit that can support that student individually or in a small group. Divorce, separation, anxiety, those kind of things. These kits will benefit our student and meet their individual needs.
I know I went through the grant requirements at the front of the presentation rather quickly. We'll have the application form on the district website by July 1st. If you have any questions at all or would like some help applying for a district grant, please let me know. I'm more than happy to help any way that I can.
Thank you, Bobby. Just look at all the good we're doing in our district through these wonderful projects, and every year they just get better and better. So get busy and think about what you'd like to do for your district project for this coming Rotary year. You know, our #1 priority is eradicating polio, and so we're going to let past District Governor Chuck Mason talk to us again about Polio Plus. Chuck?
Okay, let me see if I can get my screen here. Okay. Polio Plus is the biggest project year after year for Rotary. We've been involved actually in polio eradication from 1979, but it was not an overall program. It was just one that was sponsored in the Philippines. They basically asked for a way to eradicate polio within the Philippines, and over about a 3-year period, they accomplished it. And that was really what gave Rotary International the encouragement to, well, if they can do it there, why can't we do it worldwide? But, you know, we talk to a lot of people, and let's face it, if you're not 65 years or older, you really don't know what polio was like. But back in the early 50s and the late 40s and all, it was terrifying to a lot of people. that was a polio ward, and it was particularly frightening because it struck, you know, young kids. We didn't know anything about pandemics, and then all of a sudden COVID came along, and we're facing a similar situation there. Back in the 50s, luckily we came up with vaccines, and a lot of us participated in mass immunizations, just as Rotary sponsored mass immunizations in the Philippines is this one, and as we're now doing mass COVID immunizations. So it should be a little bit easier to talk to people about how polio really affects people now. This is a chart just showing when Rotary officially took it on as our main project. The red countries there were the ones that were experiencing a large number of polio problems. And by 2020, we're down to 2 countries where it's endemic. This shows a little bit more just in 1980 to 2015. It pretty dramatically shows just how fast it dropped. And then from 2013 to 2020, show how it kept going down. And then 2019, it went up again. And 2020, because of COVID, we've still had trouble bringing it down. In 2019, it may surprise you, but the reason there was a huge outbreak in this was social media. In Afghanistan and Pakistan, there were negative social media programs that were started saying that it was all a ploy to sterilize Muslims, that it was a plot by the US and our allies. And so it's taken a couple of years to get past that. They just had a change in government, and the government was just not ready to try to defend the program. But in the last year, and particularly in the last 6 months, we've gotten our act back together. But what have we done during the years we've worked on them? We've immunized billions with a B of children throughout the world. As a result of that, most scientists believe there's probably about 19 million people that are walking or alive that would otherwise have either died or been severely crippled by the disease. We've reduced the cases by more than 99%. There are 3 types of wild polio. We've eradicated 2 completely. Just recently, last year, we finally were able to certify that Africa was completely polio-free of wild viruses. And now we've only got 2 countries reporting wild viruses, Afghanistan and Pakistan. This is the reason that we need to keep our work up. It's not the numbers, it's the people. Each one of those people are kids, families that are affected by this. And it is truly devastating for families that have a child that has polio. We were delayed a lot because of the COVID pandemic, but we started resuming it in July after pausing it. We had to figure out, how are we going to approach this? How can we do it safely where we're not just adding to the problem? But we had to do something because so many more children, particularly in Afghanistan and Pakistan, with high birth rates, with people moving into the area, there were so many new kids that had never been vaccinated. And we knew that if we didn't start doing something soon, it could be pretty desperate. Right now, what do we have to do? In order to get rid of polio permanently, we have to immunize almost 400 million children a year in 40 countries. To do that, we have to fund hundreds of thousands of polio workers in 70,000 in 70 countries, because we have to keep maintaining that. And then finally, we have to continue surveillance to make sure that it's not sneaking up on us again. So how are all these donations used? Here's a chart. Normally we hear about, well, you know, it costs 15 cents or $3 or whatever for a vaccine. The vaccine is not the biggest cost on this. Think about where the problem is on polio. It's in third or even fourth world countries, if you want to look at it that way. They don't have transportation. They don't have facilities to keep vaccines cold. They don't have a health care system in the country. So we're having to provide all these things. And when I say we, it's not just Rotary. It's Rotary, World Health Organization, CDC, UNICEF, Gavi, which is a vaccine alliance, and obviously the Bill and Melinda Gates Fund. I never realized until this last year that all of these funds that Rotary puts in are actually handed out on a grants basis. And this just gives an example of what Rotary did last year. We gave out $50,000 to each one of these different countries here. And here's how it was used. Operation support, social mobilization to convince people they need to be vaccinated, vaccines, surveillance, and other things. To help us meet that goal, we're asking all the clubs to set a minimum club goal of $1,500 a year. And for our district to donate at least 20% of our DDF. We're actually meeting right after this meeting, and hopefully we'll be increasing that to 30% of our DDF this year. But we've got a lot of clubs that are still not giving anything, and we need that money to be able to get rid of polio. One of the reasons it's so important is because if we reach $50 million of our money that we give, DTF, money that we receive from other people, the Gates Foundation matches it 2 to 1. So we'll really be providing $150 million a year. We've done that 3 years in the past now, and we're looking forward to doing it again. Since we started raising money for polio, we and the Gates Foundation, with their matching funds, have generated $2.3 billion, almost $2.4 billion. And so we have been a significant factor in this worldwide. One of the other things that we're the ones that go to the different countries and say, we need your help on this, because nobody has the worldwide network and influence in so many different countries as Rotary. If we had not started our Polio Plus program back in '88, it was not the intention of the World Health Organization or CDC to ever get involved in it. They wanted to do just general programs. Now they're looking back at it and saying, this is the most successful vaccine program ever. So what we want to do, I want to end polio, and I hope that you do too, because we want these kids to be able to thank us for it. We're really close, but as Deepak Kapoor said, the job is almost done, but the most dangerous word in the dictionary is almost. We are almost there, but we don't want to stop there. Last year, we had a challenge at the end of the year. It just started around the 1st of June. And we had a match within our district from a couple of donors. And because of that, we raised almost an extra $100,000 in that last month of the year. Total, when you figured out all the matching funds, we provided almost $895,000 to polio eradication. This year, we started a little bit different, but we have a couple of donors that have issued a challenge grant. We've got the details of it in the district website on the newsletter. But if we're able to raise an extra $50,000 from actually we started out with 118,000, and if we get that extra $50,000 and our match from the District 5910 matching funds, the DDF funds that our district is donating, and the match from the Gates Foundation, will be at 893,000. And quite frankly, if we go just a little bit over that, we'll actually beat last year. The last 2 years, we have been the top giving district in our part of the zone out of the 7 districts in Texas. And I want to beat the pants off of Houston again. So please help me in polio. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Chuck. Just the fact that we have wiped out polio in India, a country of over 1 billion people, is just beyond belief. I'm so proud to be a Rotarian when I think about that. So let's just stay after it and get rid of it in Afghanistan and Pakistan. Also, education and promoting peace is one of our 7 areas of focus. And here to tell us about that is our Rotary Alumni and Global Scholars Program Chair, Rebecca Maxwell. Rebecca is one of our success stories. She is a formal ambassadorial scholar, now known as Global Scholars. And she came back to us and is helping us lead our district. So we're so proud of you, Rebecca, and I'll let you take it from here.
Thank you so much, Brenda. This evening is a little surreal because I didn't realize that Dr. Teresa Simpson and Werner Rose were going to be on this call. So I'm excited that they're on because they are some of the people who were involved in my journey as an ambassadorial scholar. So thank you both for being here tonight. I will also want to thank anyone who has in the past donated to the Rotary International Foundation or who will in the future, because your donations that we do is what has changed my life and helped me not only find the passion for Rotary, but also stay involved and be inspired to do that. I want to tell you a quick story. Many of you may have heard this before, so I'm sorry if it is boring, but bear with me for a few minutes. Teresa Simpson actually mentioned one of her favorite projects that was made possible through the Rotary International Foundation, and that was our trip to Belize. Now, Teresa had taken other students in previous years, but my first introduction to the Rotary International Foundation and my first trip outside of the US was with Teresa on that Camp Believe project in Belize, where we were able to go and work with middle school and high school students for a couple of days. Not only was this my first time outside of the country, but it was my first time really getting hands-on with a service project that was in another part of the world. I was doing this as a Rotaract member at the Lamar University Rotaract Club. This was actually just about 2 months after I joined the Rotaract Club. So I was a junior student at Lamar, studying business. We went on this wonderful trip. Actually, another Rotaract member stepped aside so that my sister and I could go on this trip together. And we were able to engage with these students, and we did various activities and projects with them. But through this journey, I got to know Teresa pretty well. And she asked me, knowing I was going into my senior year that fall, she was curious about what I was planning to do after I graduated. And my plan was pretty simple. I was going to stay in the area. I was going to try to find a job. And I had been thinking about maybe doing the MBA program at Lamar, but I wasn't real sure. So she knew my heart for service and my love for Rotaract and told me about the ambassadorial scholarship. Not really thinking much of it, and not thinking it might be possible, she helped me in the application process with the district that year. And in 2011, I went to Scotland for a year to complete my master's degree in international marketing. Through that experience, I spent a year abroad mainly in Glasgow, Scotland, but had the opportunity to travel all across Europe, and very much remaining in contact with my Rotarian hosts, Ian and Louise, who I still exchange emails with and have actually seen a couple of different times after I graduated and left Scotland. But that Rotary connection is really what makes these ambassadorial scholars and now what's called the Global Grant Scholarships different. There are other scholarships that send students around the world, but this Rotary connection that we have is really what makes this unique. You have Rotarians working with you from beginning to end. I even had the opportunity during my time abroad to meet the Rotary International President that year, Callie-Ann Banerjee, on at least 2 different occasions. I actually think it may have been 3, through various Rotary activities. And that was amazing to me because I never would have dreamed I would have been able to have that opportunity to meet the Rotary International President and actually have a few short but wonderful conversations with him and other global grant or ambassadorial scholars at that time. Right now, our district does have a global grant scholar currently abroad. And so this is where it kind of comes full circle for me. I am now working with Sakura Fisher. She is currently in Japan, but her global grant scholarship sent her to South Korea. And now she's kind of doing an extra side project in Japan. So Sakura is currently abroad. Her project is actually 2 years. So her master's degree is a 2-year program, and we are funding her for those full 2 years. In the fall, we will be hopefully sending Annette Bell. Annette is sponsored by the Cleveland Rotary Club, and Ernestine is serving as her mentor through this process. Annette plans to go to Scotland, actually Edinburgh, and we are working through her application to Rotary International right now, and we hope that that is approved sometime in June or July, and that she will be going abroad this fall. So what is kind of the details of the Global Grant Scholarship and what do you need to know? Funding is mainly for postgraduate education. So this could be a master's or PhD program. And a unique piece compared to other scholarships that go abroad is it does have to tie into one of Rotary's 7 areas of focus, as Bobby covered earlier. So this means that the scholar should be either pursuing a degree that aligns with one of those 7 areas of focus, and their future career path must also align with one of those areas. And there's some different ways to do that. So if you have any questions, I'll drop my contact information in the chat after I get done with this presentation. You can certainly reach out to me. We do have to work with another Rotary Club in that country that they're studying. So that can sometimes be a challenge, finding a Rotary Club who is also qualified to receive a scholar and work with them while they're abroad. The minimum budget for a global grant scholarship is now $30,000, and it can be more, but the minimum budget is $30,000 and it has to be for at least a year. Now, who's a good candidate? Now, as you just heard my personal story, I got introduced to this going into my senior year at Lamar University. So those types of students who are getting ready to graduate, have about a year left in school, are typically kind of in that mindset that they're looking for what the next step is, especially if they're planning to go on to graduate school. This could be a great option for them. This is how Sakura and Annette both found us. They were applying for the Global Grant Scholarship during their last year in school. Or they don't have to be currently in school. It could be a young professional or other professionals who are looking to pursue other degrees, such as those master's and doctoral programs. Another great way to find some good candidates are Interact and Rotaract members. So whether they were past Interact members or current Rotaract members, Sakura was actually a Rotaract member, very heavily involved in the Lamar University Rotaract Club. I myself was a Rotaract member, or some other people who've had that connection to Rotary. A lot of times they understand what Rotary is looking for and they have that passion for service. If you're interested, if your club is interested in sponsoring a Global Grant Scholar, another way to find possible candidates is to work with your honors colleges or programs at your local universities. Or if you have family or friends of students who may fit some of these criteria. Though keep in mind, children and grandchildren of Rotarians cannot apply, unfortunately. So sorry for my kids. If I ever have kids, they're not going to be able to apply unless you drop out of Rotary for at least, I think it's 3 years that you have to be out before your children or grandchildren could be eligible. But you may have friends or other distant family that may be eligible for this. Again, kind of going into their senior year of college would be a good timing for them. And that is it. I'm going to drop my contact information in the chat. So if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me.
Thank you, Rebecca. As you can see, the Rotary Foundation helps others in many, many ways. And one of the things, wait a minute, I just got a note from Governor Becky. I just need to mention this. It was back on the recognition portion. She said she had a couple of people from the Beaumont Club who had signed up to become members of the Paul Harris Society, and that's $1,000 per year to the Rotary Foundation. But they're not showing up as eligible. Well, you have to actually meet that $1,000 before you get the designation as eligible. So she wanted me to mention that to you, but we certainly congratulate them for signing up and hope that they will continue to reach that. Let's see. The other thing, I want to thank all of our speakers and to everyone on the call this evening for joining us. I want to remind our committee chairs to please stay on the line for a brief meeting. But this concludes our foundation training again. And again, thank you for joining us. One major thing, please support the Rotary Foundation this coming year. Get with your clubs. President-elects, you cannot do this all by yourself. So I implore you to get your foundation chair named, because as you can see, there's a lot of moving parts to the foundation. But again, as a district committee, we are all here to help you with anything that you need, and we'll be sending you all the contact information for the different parts of the foundation. So with that, I will say good evening to you and thank you again for joining us. Is there any